Okay, guys, welcome back to Let's Get Freaky podcast. Super excited to welcome our guest tonight. I've done podcasts with him in the past. He's an awesome dude. We have got Chris Holm with us. How are you, brother? Welcome to Let's Get Freaky podcast, man.
Hey, how's it going? Doing good. Glad to talk to you. Everything's awesome over here, and I'm glad that we can get to speaking.
Yeah, man. So for anyone that doesn't know, what part of the world are you in right now? I know you're in America, but what part of the US are you in?
I'm based out of Texas, Central Texas. It's pretty good up here. We got pretty good weather. It just gets hot every now and then, and it's that muggy kind of heat. So it's
Yeah,
like everything is just hot and sweaty.
yeah. Well, it just rains here all the time, so I'll swap you. I wouldn't mind that. But it's good to have you, man. You've got an awesome podcast, Conspire A Theory Podcast, which is absolutely awesome. You're also an artist. Your work is absolutely incredible. You've done a picture of me before as well in the past, which I love, and I've posted that on my social media. So tell us a little bit about how you got into the paranormal, the conspiracy, and all the freaky stuff that we love here at Let's Get Freaky.
Well, I've always been like a fan of paranormal and stuff for quite some time. I grew up in the 90s listening to Art Bell on Coast to Coast AM. That was a lot of fun. And I'd have to stay up late to listen to that. And my parents had cable TV, so we would get the Sci-Fi channel, and I would they would air alien abduction documentaries like 2 or 3 in the morning. So I'd have to stay up late and record them on the Betamax to watch them again. And and that was a lot of fun. So and I would, always we had the internet, and it was when it was like 28K modem. So I pretty much put that through the ringer on the telephone line, so that way, I could stay up late and just look up websites and stuff, and we go to the internet forums and just talk spooky stuff, and it was a lot of fun. So I finally had reached time where I decided to start my own podcast, because I would start going to like local events, and there was like I would talk to Ken Gerhard, who was
Oh
the
wow,
Bigfoot guy here in
yeah.
San Antonio. And me and him, we'd talk a lot, and I reached a point. It's like, man, I wish I could get these conversations on tape, because we talk about some of the coolest stuff. And that was one of the genesis of the me starting my own podcast. And I would be like a fan of other podcasts in their communities. And after a while, it's like, having your own podcast, it's sort of like a way of putting your voice out there in the paranormal continuum so much, on how to speak, and just having a voice in this community. It's just one of the ways to do it.
Mhm.
I mean, anyone who has a podcast, I highly commend them, and I'll gladly listen to an episode or two, because it's like, I know that there's like some of us, we get stuck in our heads in the numbers game, but it's just so long as you're out there, then that's good. Just so long
Mhm.
as you're out there and doing stuff.
Yeah, man.
And there's other ways that, I would often listen to shows, and I'd hear someone on a show, and I'd say, wow, this was a great show. I'd really like to talk to that guest. And having the outlet of the podcast, allows me entry to, pick their brain for a little bit, about to see what it is that they're about, what they want to talk about, and see
Mhm.
if I could press an issue that I'm very curious about.
Yeah.
And and it's just, I just love talking spooky stuff with people, as I'm sure you do.
Oh man, yeah. Well, that's what I love about the podcasting communities. You can reach out and talk to your heroes. But I'm talking to people now that I've been listening to and watching for years, and I still like can't believe it sometimes. I'm like, wow, man, like this person's actually talking to me. It's wild. It's wild to, but that's what's so cool about this community. It's very you can meet some amazing people, man. Like you just constantly
Yeah, all
meeting
the
amazing
time.
people, and I love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. So how long have you been doing the podcast for?
I was in podcasting since, I want to say, the mid to early 2010s.
Oh wow.
I've probably I've been at my own podcast for about 6 years, and then podcasting in general 10 years before that.
Wow.
Before I was the third mic on a gaming podcast where we would talk video games and stuff like this. I was the hatchet man. I would come in, the host would do his spiel, he would talk the news, and then I would come in and give my hot takes and color commentary on whatever the pressing issues were at the time. And I think the host liked it when I came in and I didn't know anything about the topic or the game franchise, and then he would explain it so that way, the listeners could then, get a get a get in on the guff. And I think it's also he just liked to sound smart. So it was
Yeah.
good to sit there and be the dumb guy that has to have the issues explained to him. And that was a
See,
lot of fun. It got me into a lot of gaming conventions. I would talk to a lot of game developers and fun people like that. It was when podcasting was at its early years, when it was in I'm not going to say its infancy, but more of it in its past its toddlerdom, when it was in its sort of young, like a young 10-year-old.
mhm,
It was a time to really, when there was a clear barrier of entry where if you were on, you had to be really serious about it. And now the barrier of entry is sort of lowered, but some people see that as a double-edged sword because now there's no quality control. But then on the same hand, people are thriving in this industry that otherwise wouldn't have been given a chance.
mhm.
So it's sort of, it comes with its ebbs and its flows.
Yeah, it's like everything, isn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah, man. So you're like an OG in podcasting, man. I didn't realize you've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
Wow, you're
Yeah.
up there.
I try to it, and the thing is that the technology is pretty much basically the same, but it's still, it's still just making sure that you got the right things plugged in, and that even then,
Yeah.
things can still go haywire.
Oh man, yeah. Because technology is not always my strong point, as you probably
Yeah.
know.
Mm.
And
Yeah. I mean,
so
it gets a little easier to use. But then once they figure that out, then they just well, everybody's having too much fun. We gotta up the price
yeah,
or take away a feature or something like that.
yeah, yeah.
And
Keep
then
us on our toes.
everybody's gotta scramble to get caught back up where they once were.
Hmm. Yeah, man. So when it comes to the paranormal experiences that you've had, did you have any experiences growing up as a kid? Did anything happen that sort of triggered this interest or?
In my youth, I can only describe this, I guess before I was initially like really interested in the paranormal. I was just a regular teenager in high school and middle school, where I just sit down and I draw my comics, just lying on my bed, with my Garfield telephone and my my Anne Frank Trapper Keeper and all that stuff open, and I'd just be doodling Ninja Turtles.
Oh
And I
man.
would hear I would hear my name called, and I would get up and I'd go, find my mom, and then she's like, I didn't call your name, but I distinctly remember hearing my name called in that summoning tone. And then me and my mom go back and forth, and she's like, well, I didn't call you, that must have been your guardian angel. In my household, anything paranormal that ever happened or that I would ever bring to my parents, my mom would immediately rationalize it as it's a guardian angel or something like that. That was her cover to take to put the kibosh on anything that spooky going on in our house. But nothing outside that really ever happened. There was, nothing that kept us up at night or anything,
Hmm.
transgressive of that nature. But it was just like little spooky things here and there, hearing
Hmm.
a name being called. And that happened to me for all through my early teen years. What
But
I think, what I believe happened was in that venue of my life, I was probably a low grade what they would refer to as a poltergeist agent, where you were like a channel or a focus for whatever poltergeist energy was out there.
Hmm.
And oftentimes we see this in like the Enfield poltergeist and stuff, where everything is focusing on a youth. And I think at that time I probably had whatever channeling it was probably coming, was probably coming manifesting through me somehow.
Hmm.
But since I had my hobbies and stuff to channel my energies into, you know, whatever it was just channeled out and then didn't go anywhere else.
Interesting.
So that's why I think that sort of petered out and never escalated.
Yeah. So you think if
If you
you
look
if you'd put your energy into that and sort of paid more attention and given it more fear, maybe, do you think that it would have escalated?
Probably, maybe, I don't know, but I speculate that that is a possibility because looking back at those cases, that's pretty much what happened, where the kids, because they were in an awkward stage and because they had this sort of, I guess awkward and neurotic behavior and stuff, whatever it is, just cycled in and doubled up on itself and then manifested through, poltergeist activity. And I think because I had a focus, because I had like interests and stuff to channel my energies into outside of just generalized teenage angst, it was then had a safe outlet. And I think that's what diffused it.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's a running theory.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just
it
something
makes a
that
lot of
I really
sense.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, because I do think the more energy you give these things, even in our adult life, the more we look into it, the more energy we give to it. I think that is sometimes a reason why these things happen because we're focusing on it. We might be worried about it, or I think you feed into that energy, and that's when things start to happen. Possibly, that's just
Yeah,
a theory as
it's a
well.
possibility if we're just throwing stuff at the wall.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that was pretty much the thing in through my youth. And I think in my the first time I had like a firsthand, like real in your face encounter was a sleep paralysis episode I had in my later adulthood. This was what I refer to now as pretty much as the quantum redneck incident, where I had this sort of it was in between shifts when I was working overnight, so I was sleeping during the day, and I guess I came home from work and after I took off all my work stuff, I just plopped right onto the on top of the bed and just laid there. And then I felt the sleep paralysis, whatever it was, just channeled through my body. What I felt was an even weight holding me down, but it was like it wasn't weight on my body, it was more like weight from within my body. Like, and there was this I can only describe it as if liquid fear was being pumped into my veins. I felt very anxious and on edge and terrified for whatever reason. And as that happened, I was just sitting there, and then in the door opens, my bedroom door, which I had closed, and my bedroom door opens, and my room is filled with daylight. It's and in walks these two redneck looking entities. They are very one is really really tall. He's got like they both have trucker caps on, and he's got like fiery red hair that's flowing, and he's got this tight black top that's two sizes too small for his body. So his belly is hanging out, and he's wearing like bicycle shorts and stuff like this. And the other one is a short, scrunched over, almost crippled, like as if he had some sort of spinal disease, like crippled over, hunched over man. And he's got like this blue and green, sort of like not checkered, but plaid overshirt. And of course, it's just t-shirt and jeans. And this scruff, he's got this long mustache, this Fu Manchu type mustache. And he's looking sternly at me as the other one goes about and starts to go through my things. They both start going through my things, opening my drawers and closets, and then what happens is they open closet doors into walls where there are no closets. So it's sort of like they're opening dimensional portals right in front of me. And inside of these closet space, these extra dimensional closet spaces is more closet refuge. I could see coats and stuff and other, just refuge that you would find in any closet just there. And they're just rooting through it. They're just rooting through all this stuff. They're clearly looking for something. And as they're looking, they're both looking for stuff. The short one sternly every now and then turns to look at me to make sure that I'm not moving. And as I feel, the sensations start to return to my body, I start to feel movement. It's somehow they're able to sense that. They can smell it somehow. And as I get more control, they back off and show themselves out and close the door behind them. And of course, and I quickly jump up and I'm on edge. And I go through my house and there's not a trace. I have two layers of security, electronic security and traditional deadbolts, but nothing has been triggered. If anything was ever to be molested, it would be from the inside to get out, and nothing was unlatched or unlocked to allow exit. So they would have had to have either vanished, or poofed in some sort of way, and for me that was a very harrowing experience.
Man, yeah, sounds
Yeah,
terrifying.
but the thing is that I knew what sleep paralysis was, and that's how I interpreted it as, okay, I had sleep paralysis. This was a manifestation. I rationalized it as that. I didn't see it as anything more than that. I mean, other people out there that I've brought this story to disagree with me, and that's fine. I'm willing to hash it out with them.
Hmm.
Some people think that these guys jump through time and space to search for some sort of sacred artifact was somehow hidden in my drawers somehow. And the thing is, all the stuff that was in my drawers is just junk, bobbleheads and keychains and pens that are half full and stuff like this, just junk, just stuff. Even if I went through my stuff, I couldn't find a clue or a hint of anything that they would have been looking for. It's just a sort of it was just a strange experience. I maybe felt the presence of these individuals because they had a distinct aura, maybe one other time when I felt
Wow.
sleep paralysis settling back in, but I was able to will myself out of it. And after that, it kind of went away.
How long
One
after
of the
was that experience?
It was probably about a couple months. Is probably a couple months. The One of the key things that I noticed about my paralysis experience was that I was on my back and I felt an even weight on my body. What a lot of people experience is they feel a heavy weight on their chest. And usually that's where the manifestation focuses is it's we see it in such entities as the old hag, the
Mhm.
gray witch, all of these nightmare creatures, which they're popping on our chest, and they're oftentimes they're engaging with the experiencer. What I found also unusual is that these guys had passive interest in me. If anything, my presence was a hindrance to their activities. I wasn't a focus. Like, say, for example, whenever people see like the Hat Man or the the Shadow Man or other such entities, they're there directly to engage specifically with the experiencer. They're there to get in your face and to agitate you aggressively.
Hmm.
With these guys, they were just going through stuff, doing things, but they had zero interest in me other than me potentially getting in their way.
Hmm. So
So I
so it was like
don't know
they're
what I
looking
mean.
for something.
Yeah, exactly. And
It's so interesting, man.
and I don't know. I can't imagine any heirloom or any haunted artifact or sacred item
Hmm.
that I would have had, unless there's like
Unless there's
a
something that you can't
haunted
see in our dimension.
keychain or something that I got.
Yeah. It could
I
be
don't know.
some artifact from another dimension that we can't see. I'm just throwing a theory out there, but maybe.
Probably
And
whatever it was, they had to transcend dimensional time space or what have you to look for it.
mhm.
And it doesn't look like they left my presence, my room satisfied.
Interesting.
They only stopped because I gained control of my body. That was their only hindrance. So whatever it is that they were looking for, they didn't find it. They clearly did not find it.
I know it's hard to know this, but do you know roughly how long this took place? How long this took happened for?
It felt like it was about 15 to 20 minutes.
Oh wow, that's long, man.
Mhm.
That is long. Wow, because when
I
I've
mean, it,
experienced sleep paralysis, it's normally it's quite a quick thing. It's very scary. Like it's horrible, but it's normally not that like nowhere near that sort of time.
so I mean, if I was on edge, it could have been 5 minutes that felt like 20.
Hmm.
So that's a possibility as well. But as far as what I know, it felt like 15 minutes.
Man. So had you had got up and if there was like a door open, for example, like something that wasn't locked or a window open or something like that, would you have thought these were like normal guys that are coming in, breaking in? Would that have been a possibility to you? Was it that like real?
Um, they looked real, but they had these unrealistic proportions about them that I guess could have been real. It's like they look like cartoons, but they were still made of clearly made of flesh and persons, but
Hmm.
I guess them existing would have been, very, very strange, very odd looking. But, it's as far as, I I don't know. I mean, I guess the initial thing is whatever it is that's whatever the interloper is, it manifests itself as whatever, either you feel should be um the cultural consensus that what you're supposed to be afraid of.
Hmm.
And in this one, they didn't dress themselves up as werewolves or alien grays or ghosts. They dressed themselves up as white trash. It's sort of this sort of trucker, redneck aesthetic. They wrap themselves up in that,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't understand.
Yeah. That is strange. And you say they had like cartoon-like features. So is that like big eyes, like big noses and stuff like that that just didn't look natural?
Well, more I guess their faces seem pretty normal, but it's just their bodily proportions just seem somewhat unnatural. Like the tall one was really tall. I'd say probably be about 6 or 7 feet tall. And then the
Wow.
short one was probably about like maybe 4 or 5 feet. But he was sort of like hunched over and of that nature.
Hmm.
And they seem to be able to move pretty easily given what normal people would have had as crippled bodies, but
Hmm.
it didn't seem to affect them. It seemed more cosmetic to them.
Interesting. See, when I had sleep paralysis, I used to suffer really badly with sleep paralysis. I still get it now, but it's not as often. Like I used to get it once a week where I used to live. But honestly, it was like something I dealt with. I didn't really know what it was. It was always a horrible thing, but I didn't really know if it was paranormal, if it was just me. It was always a something I didn't like experiencing it, obviously. And I used to see the hag. And when
Hmm.
it happened to me, and I say I used to see the hag, I couldn't look around the room to see anything. I was sort of stuck. But in my mind's eye, I can see something in the corner of my room, if that makes sense. And it
Mhm.
was like just a mass of evil. It didn't look like a witch. It just looked like a black mass. But in my mind, I was like, this is a witch, and it's the hag.
Mhm.
And I didn't even know about. other people seeing the hag at this sort of time. I didn't look into it that much. And then it was only looking into it and listening to other podcasts and stuff like that and realizing that the hag is quite a common thing. And I was like, wow, like that's what I was experiencing. Um, with when you was having this experience, could you look around the room or was it in a mind's eye?
Um, I could move my eyes like subtly. I could move my eye, but I was in a position where I was in the corner of my room already.
Okay.
So I could look around my room, and my field of vision was pretty much where my room was, the two walls opposite of me. So I pretty much had a full view. And as far as, I don't know if these guys were necessarily evil, they felt menacing, but I don't know if I could pin them down as evil other than just, they had a clear mission in mind, and if anything, I was an obstacle to that.
Yeah. Yeah, because as you say, when you have these attacks, it's directed to you. Like every time I've had an attack, there's something coming for me. There's something trying to get
Mhm.
into me, attack me. I had it recently downstairs on my couch where I was sort
Mhm.
of, I was obviously drifting out, I think, and I had the attack, the feeling of, I get like a vibration that goes through me that I feel before it happens. And it's like quite a nice sensation when I feel it. But now I know what it means, what's coming. It's not nice because I know this is coming. And
Mhm.
then that's it, bang, I can't move. I'm in a panic mode trying to get out of. And the last time I experienced it, there was like this alien thing in my front room walking towards me. And that's
Mhm.
my last attack of this. The thing with sleep paralysis, is it, are you asleep or are you drifting off to sleep? Because a lot of the time with sleep paralysis, you hear people wake up and they're in the sleep paralysis state. For me, it's always been as I'm trying to go to sleep. And I don't know if I'm asleep or if, if that makes sense. I'm trying to sleep. I don't think I am asleep. I think I'm sort of getting there, but I'm not actually asleep when it's happened to me.
Yeah, I think that that's the state that I was into. I was in the process of sleeping, and then whatever it is decided to click on and start up.
Yeah.
And I don't think that this was a sort of I don't know, something where I was dreaming, actively dreaming. It was like I was on my way to sleep,
Hmm.
and then this sort of fork in the road happened, and I went another way instead of what I should have gone.
Yes, that's exactly how I would describe it when I've had it. There's only been one time where I think there's only been one time where I've woke up during the night and had an attack. I think that's the only, it's normally as I'm trying to sleep and I get the vibration going through me and yeah, it's very strange.
Hmm.
So what do you think
Yeah.
sleep paralysis is? I know that's a difficult question, but what do you think is going on there?
Well, I'm content with the official narrative, skeptical narrative of it's just our body reacting to certain endorphins and chemicals flooding our body when they shouldn't, like a misbalance of chemical stuff. I'm content with that because, as far as us attributing spiritual aspects to it, I think that's the sort of deeper conversation in our subconscious that we're looking to confront. That's a more spiritual conversation. But as far as sleep paralysis goes, I do think that's it is its own thing, and it's a totally valid, rational response
Hmm.
to what it is and stuff like this. Now, I do still think that alien abduction phenomenon, succubus phenomenon, and all that other stuff that could be their own things, and maybe whatever those interlopers are have found a way to um, trigger the mechanical response of sleep paralysis in order to engage in their deeds. That's what I think is a possibility, that if there are aliens transversing the dimensions or whatever, they figured out how to trigger the sleep switch
Hmm.
so that way they can incapacitate us to do whatever it is that they want. I'm cool with that. I don't have any issue with that. But as far as sleep paralysis, I do feel like it is its own legit thing.
Hmm.
And I believe that I want to believe that what I had was a sleep paralysis thing. But as far as the spiritual questions, that there are certain aspects and uh, key features that don't match typical sleep paralysis experience. Like one, the entities I saw weren't, you know, your typical SPDs. They weren't your typical sleep paralysis demons. They were something else.
Hmm.
And the actions of them didn't match what we see of typical sleep paralysis experiences, like assaulting the experiencer. That didn't happen. And because of that, I'm left with something else in my lap.
Hmm.
And I don't I'm still in the process of writing down a formal report so that I could present it to people like Vicky Joy Anderson and that stuff. I know
Yeah,
that this is her wheelhouse,
she's awesome. Yeah.
and I haven't yet had the chance to speak to her and detail this experience to her, but I have spoken to Karen Wilkinson of
Hmm.
Stolen Seed fame, and she recommended and sent me Vicky Joy's info and said, you have to talk to her about this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm following up where I have to just write it, make sure that I get all my details down so that that way she has everything she needs and I'm not wasting her time.
Hmm.
But I would like to hear her assessment.
Yeah.
I haven't had her on my show yet to present this to her. And if that time comes, I'm certain I'm really interested to see what um, her assessment is going to be because
Hmm.
I mean I don't know, she's this is a thing that she's studied for quite some time,
Hmm.
and I know that she's slowly getting out of, I just don't want to be the sleep paralysis chick anymore. But this is something that
Yeah.
I
You should
definitely want
definitely
to
talk to her.
talk
100%.
to her about.
Because your experience is very different to a lot of sleep. As you said, it's very different to a lot of sleep paralysis experiences. It's not your
Yeah.
everyday sleep paralysis experience that you hear. And even with the detail that you've got, it's very interesting, man. Very interesting indeed. And for that time as well. Like you don't normally hear 15 to, I know you said it's hard to tell when you're scared in that
Yeah.
state.
Yeah.
It is hard. But that's even in 5 minutes is a long time in that state. So
Hmm.
yeah, man, I think she would be a great person to talk to.
Yeah,
Because yeah.
definitely.
So you said it happened again a couple of months later. That's interesting
Well,
as well.
when I happened was I felt the beginning of it, like
Hmm.
the initial tingling, and I was sleeping on my side, and I felt like a presence behind me, but I was able to wheel myself out of it, and by then whatever presence had vanished. And it could have been either, but honestly, it felt like a singular individual rather
Hmm.
than both of them. It wasn't both of them. I believe it was the tall redheaded one that he was standing behind me, about to do something, just waiting for me to turn off so that he could get to work. But
Wow.
when I came to and was able to, shift myself so that way I could get more comfortable because this was when I was trying to sleep. Then I think whatever it is, it left for the night and didn't try again.
Interesting, man. And that's weird that you had that knowing. I talk to a lot of psychics and a lot of sensitives, and there's just a lot of the time with these things, there's just a knowing that this is what it is. And I find that interesting that you know that you felt like it was that entity. You felt like it was coming for you. So that's interesting as well, man.
Hmm.
Has there been
Yeah.
any more attacks? Any other sleep paralysis attacks that you've had?
Um, I've had sleep paralysis, but nothing where I was ever attacked by anything. There was no other entity. It was just, oh, I'm having sleep paralysis, and then eventually I will myself out of it, or it ends, and then nothing came in the room to mess with me. It was just I just had a biochemical response to whatever misfiring sleep chemicals that were going on in my brain and body.
Hmm.
And then it wore itself out, and I was able to gain control and redo whatever it is that I needed to do to get comfortable again. But it's as far as anything engaging with entities didn't happen again. The only other time that I had like a sleep paralysis was I believe was during a dream state when I was lucid dreaming. I was actually paralyzed in a lucid dream, which is sort of, a weird thing.
Hmm.
As I can best describe it, this was like in a field, like I imagine was some sort of Gettysburg or whatever World War II Civil War. That's what it felt like. That's what the era felt like in the context of the dream. That I was there in this field and there was a mattress and I was laying on the mattress, as if what that would be doing in the middle of a battlefield makes absolutely no sense, but that's how dreams work. Nothing is supposed to make sense. And I look to my left as I'm laying on my back, and there's this person. There's a woman. She's got her back to me. I see the back of her hair. It's brown. It's curly. She's wearing a white undergarment, and I can see, her shoulders, her bare shoulders, and I will everything into my hand because I want to reach out and grab her wrist. Just not because the way I see it, this is a chance of a lifetime. I finally have a chance to interact with a sleep paralysis entity when I got it by surprise. That's what I thought. I have it by surprise somehow, and I have to do everything to get out there because once I grab it, somehow science wins or whatever. I get the Nobel Peace Prize or whatever. I solved the mystery by grabbing this creature by her wrist. And I will on my energy into my hand, and I reach out to grab her. And instead of grabbing her wrist, I reach and I grab her ass cheek. And then I feel reality shift. I feel like that, like the Wayne's World, where
Yeah.
they make the screen off. I feel that happen. And then I wake up and my hand has a death grip on the corner of my mattress. So it's like I felt the softness of her ass cheek, but then it slowly transformed into the corner of my mattress when I woke up in the real world. And that was and I
Man.
mean it was kind of disappointing, but I can only I can only just put that up to as that's a dream paralysis
Yeah.
or lucid dream experience somehow.
Hmm. And it's strange that
My
you had that knowing when you was in that state as well that this is what it could be. That's strange as well in a dream that
yeah,
that you're thinking that way in a dream.
yeah. Once you become aware in lucid dreams, you pretty much gain a level of omnipotence where you can do anything.
Yeah.
But again, within the dream, I was at the mercy of the context of the dream.
Hmm.
Whatever laws of its world still applied to me. If I was in a paralyzed state, I stayed in the paralyzed state. I mean, I was able to will myself against it, but when I thought I had grasped whatever it is that my intended target was, I missed, obviously. And it quickly ejected me, you know.
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
whatever it is that I thought I had gotten close to, just slipped literally. Well, it didn't slip out of my hands, but it shifted the reality to slip itself out of my hands.
Do you think this was like a form of astral projection, or do you think that's because a lot of people have said to me recently there's a link between sleep paralysis and astral projection. I don't know, but is it possible that there's a that we are
If I
going to
was
another realm or whatever
if
it
I
is?
was if I was astral projecting, it would have been like when any time that we dream, if we astral project.
Hmm.
But what was the destination? The backdrop was obviously someplace out of time and space
Hmm.
that's not relative to us. Because, like I said, I distinctly felt that it was Civil War era. I mean, in my peripheral vision, there was a forest. And between the trees, I saw light, but fire, like fire. And I could have sworn I probably heard like conflict in the background. So that's where I got the setting from, is that it could have been a civil war. And it felt civil war because it felt old timey. It didn't feel current,
Hmm.
you know. And because I'm
Interesting.
in a field, it's like, well, that's just the kind of combat within our American history that we know that would have happened in such a field. It's the only context that I have to draw from in the time that I remember.
Hmm. Interesting, man. I mean, and you could tell that that wasn't a normal dream because we do have dreams where I have dreams where I know that this is not like a normal dream. You just think differently. It feels more real. Like I think you can, and then you wake up and you're like, man, that was weird. It didn't feel like a dream. It felt so real.
I understand that there are dreams that are like exhaustive, where people feel like they experience like months and years in another life. And then when they wake up, they have to take a couple minutes to readjust themselves back to reality.
Hmm.
This wasn't one of those. When I woke up, I knew what was where I was and who I was and all that. Now, in the context of dreams, I've had dreams where I feel there was a deeper psychological connection. Something was happening I've had what I felt were dream visitations from past loved ones.
Hmm.
In I've had several involving my mother, who had passed like almost 10 years ago. And in the context of those dreams, she always finds a way when she visits to integrate herself into the dream. She becomes a part of that reality somehow. And I, of course, notice, and usually I'm acting out the context of the dream. Like the first time I noticed, for some reason, I was at a college toga party, and everybody was drinking alcohol and all that stuff. And in the background, my mom was, just in one of her, party shirts and a pair of shorts, and she was just pouring, margarita mix into a kiddie pool. Because I don't know, I guess that happens at drunken parties. Whatever, dumb drunk, and I'm speaking to someone in the dream, and then I just noticed that she's back there, and I was like, huh, that's weird. And then I just go back to the return to the context of the dream. And then in another time, I was at a convention. I frequent anime conventions, so I was in a hotel. It was crowded as hell. Everybody was running all over the place. Everything was crazy, and I'm navigating this busy hotel hallway that's just filled with people. And there are vendors booth, and I look to one of the vendors booth, and it's my mother, and she's doing arts and crafts. And my mom always did arts and crafts. She do painting and sewing and knitting and all this stuff. And in this one, she's painting, bottles for folk art. It's a folk art that we do here. And I actually recognize her. And then I walk to the side of the table, and then I just become overwhelmed with this emotion of grief and happiness. And it's like every single emotion pours through my body, and it hits me like 10, 20 times harder than what should be physically possible for whatever reason. And I get to my knees, and I just wrap my arms around her, and I just start crying, profusely for like what felt like 4 hours, and the entire time my mom is just there,
Hmm.
she's just patting me on the head as I'm sobbing, profusely. And and of course, when I woke up, it was like, yeah, it was like the best feeling in the world when I woke up, because I got all that grief out, and it somehow manifested somehow.
Hmm.
And in the latest dream visitation I've had, this was probably a couple months ago, I was in the middle of a detective story or something like that, where I was in an alleyway, in a dark, rainy alleyway. I was looking over these clues, and I had several detectives behind me as I was crouched down, looking down, seeing what was going on. And then I look up, and one of the detectives is my mom. And I'm like,
Wow.
Mom, what are you doing here? And she's like, yeah, we got to solve look at the clues. We got to solve the clues. And I'm like, oh, and I get back into the dream, and I'm looking at the clues again, and it's like, and that was just so odd and hilarious that, I'm trying to solve this murder or crime or whatever, and
Hmm.
then my mom is in the background, helping me solve
Yeah.
dream mysteries. It's
That's
fun. It's
cool
fun.
though. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was this other series of dreams that I had, three in particular, where I had my family dog. And this I linked specifically to my mental health, where I was years ago. I was, things weren't going as good. I was in a darker place. Life wasn't as good as it could be. And in the dream, I saw my dog, but his body was ragged. He looked terrible, but I was just so happy to see him again. I just sat next to him and petted him and just spent time with him. And then as the rest of the dreams progressed, I got, better in my real life. When I would see him in my dream, he would be stronger. He still looked ragged, but he was able to stand up in the next one. And then in the third dream, in this one, this is a narrative dream where I'm running through a haunted house, Scooby-Doo style, running on all these doors, and my dog is right next to me, and he's strong and virile and just radiating vigor, and he's powerful, and he's keeping up, and we're somehow solving mysteries again. We're Scooby-Dooing it through this haunted house. And I'm like, and it's like the better I got in the real world, the better he got in the dream world. And then we were able to
Interesting.
finally, plateau. And I guess that was sort of like an incentive for me to improve. That's how
Wow.
I interpret it, is that the better I got socially, the better I got, mental health wise, the next time I would see him, he would be stronger, and we would be able to play,
That's
and
interesting,
that,
man.
yeah, that's how I interpret it looking back.
And you could
This
recognize it
happened.
at the time as well. Like you
Yeah,
would
I could.
know, and you knew that this was what was happening.
I had enough awareness to see that it was him specifically, and that's what we were doing. And it was it's just, I mean, these are just dreams, but then the dreams, it's sort of like there is a sort of subconscious work where, our to deny that our subconscious doesn't have an effect on that, and that our mental health and all that stuff isn't a factor in that as well. I mean, I understand that there are some people that, due to trauma or addictions of some sort, that they have terrible nightmares, and the dreamscape or whatever isn't a friendly place to them. So I mean, I'm not denying that, but in the context of myself and in my own life, that's how that avenue worked for me.
Hmm. Yeah, that's cool, man. I used to think before, like many years ago, that dreams were just dreams, and the more you look into the paranormal and stuff like that, dreams are connected to it. There's no two ways about it. There's a lot more going on with dreams, and I'm completely changed my opinion on dreams, especially
Mm.
since doing this show as well. And there's so much more going on. I quite often have dreams. I was close to both my granddads, and they're both passed now. But I quite often have dreams where they're there in my dream, and I know that they've passed in my dream. I know that they shouldn't be there, and I'm like, wow, like you're here, you're back, and I can smell them. I cuddle them, and I'm crying a lot of the time, and I'm very
Yeah.
like joyful to see them. It's amazing,
Yeah.
and it's real. Like in that dream, it's 100%, and you wake up, and it's like, man, like that was real. Like my granddad was
Yeah.
there. I could feel him. It wasn't like a dream where it feels different, and I really do think that it's a way of the spirit world to communicate. I don't know what it is, but it feels real, and I do feel like
Yeah.
it's like them coming to say hi, or
Yeah. I think it's a thing that even if it's like a subconscious thing, that it's us subconsciously going through our whatever,
hmm.
we're better for it. It's after the experience, we're better for it. And And it's just a way of helping us out. If it's actually our loved ones reaching out to us from beyond the grave, that's cool.
Hmm.
If it's our inner subconscious trying to work out our inner turmoil in a way that we're receptive to, I'm fine with that too.
Hmm.
I understand in this paranormal, there seems to be two divisive wars. There's the skeptic side where we got to poo-poo all the fun and no one can have fun. Everything has to be, questioned, repeatable lab, repeatable in a lab studies, and that's the end all be all. And then there's this spiritual believer side where it's like you got to believe or it won't happen for you. And both sides have a tendency to engage in toxic behavior, especially with each, especially when racing with each other.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember, I think it's like we have the skeptics who want to, I mean, not just ruin the fun, but it's like they really want to like step out it's like nothing can be magical or mystical anymore. And then we have the believers who can be just as abusive and in some cases even more toxic because they are in a prime position where they can take advantage of people's willingness to believe to subjugate them to scams and stuff like that, which only, you know, emboldens the skeptical side to come down harder.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's an Ouroboros of this self-repeating cycle of a snake eating itself. And,
Hmm.
and it's sad because we've all heard the story of the family that was afraid of being cursed by a psychic, and the psychic, took advantage of their naivety and charged them hundreds of thousands of dollars because if they stopped, then she would place a curse in them. And of course, that's easy to take that case and immediately, for the skeptics to hold it up as a win. See, this proves you're all frauds
Hmm.
and you're all, skeptical and that, or that you're all, subject to our ire. And on the other side, there's this thing where, there are people within our element who will take advantage of people under the guise of open-mindedness,
Hmm.
and it's taking that openness and willingness and exploiting it for personal gain.
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
and it is really sad, and I do feel like, in some instances, some people, they do lean into that in all the, I mean, I'm sure we've all both talked to people who, have leaned into that sort of thing and come off like a bit scammy here and there.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I can't, fault people for, because once you enter the question of money, then there's this thing where it spoils everything. It spoils everyone's good intentions.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
but the truth is we can't do this shit for free. We can't do everything for free. I can't do all the commissions for free. I have to get something out of it just because,
Mhm. You got to
it
live.
makes it
Yeah.
worth it. Yeah, we got to live,
Yeah, man.
and it's just the way of the world.
Yeah.
But that's not an excuse for it to get away from us.
Yeah. I think unfortunately with every field, whatever it is, sport, paranormal, whatever it is, there's going to be people that are not trustworthy, not their intentions are not always in the right place. You're always going to get that with people. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any walk in life where you're not going to meet people that are, I don't know,
Yeah,
scamming,
yeah,
and
yeah. I
it's
mean,
it's a horrible part of life, but
yeah.
it's
I have
tough.
I have no problem with people writing a book and selling it. That's no big deal. What I have an issue with is people like when they get into the things like I will cure your ailments for $400 a Zoom call and
Yeah.
shit like this, or I'll unlock your angelic potential. I'll teach you stuff for however many hundreds of dollars, and in there I do have some issues with that. I think I've spoken to some people where I've brought this up to them, and then later on when they do it, they call it something else. Like before I had this guest, and I brought this issue up to my guests specifically. And then when I catch up with them, they're offering $100 mentorships instead. It's like, okay. And every single internet celebrity or whatever, they're going to have this life coach rift that's going on. And a lot of it is just taking advantage of people's either loneliness or they really need to talk to someone. And
Hmm.
people like us, podcasters, we get that. But then again, we do offer, these potential grifters, we give them a platform, we give them our audience, no matter how big it is. We give them sales, but the average person doesn't have that. So they have to go through the paywall just to speak to these people.
Hmm.
And it's I mean it's a bit of a rotten egg either way that you look at it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean,
I think you
but then
just,
again, yeah, but then again, these people they justify it with, well, my time is this, I have to put a value on my time because I have so many people talking to me. And it's like, yeah, I can understand that, but there is a limit, and also, it's sort of like, well, you put yourself in this position, and
yeah.
it's just, and this sort of field, it sort of leads itself open to that scrutiny,
Hmm.
unfortunately.
Yeah, man. I think it's very difficult.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, you've got to trust your gut with people. I think that's the only thing we've got really. For
yeah,
it's so hard to tell in this genre what's real, what's not, who's there to manipulate, who's there to just make money or whatever. It's very difficult, and it's hard to see people's intentions. You just got to trust your gut, man. That's what I think. It's, until someone proves to me that they're, I don't know, they're dodgy or whatever, then I
well,
try to trust everyone.
yeah,
But
well, the thing is,
oh,
no matter what, I always try to see the good in people,
yeah,
and I
sure.
lead with that. And
Hmm.
I will say it's sort of burned me and gotten me, you know, uh, in bad in a bad place with a lot of prominent people in this community. And it's just a sense of behavior, and the thing is, I'm not gonna, you know, fault myself for, expecting the best of a person, because that's just how I go on it. I see the good in people, I expect the best of them, and I treat them as such. And if they engage in nefarious behavior, that's not my doing.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
their that's a character flaw on them.
100%.
And I just got to keep going. I keep going,
All you
forward
can
with
be is
that.
you. All you can be
Yeah.
is you.
Hmm.
Listen to your gut it's very difficult because you're going to meet people throughout your life that are, I don't know, that their intentions are not what you think, and you just have to go with your gut with that sort of thing. I think it's very
Oh
difficult.
yeah.
But yeah, man, it's not just the paranormal. I think that's just
Yeah, that's
people.
just human life. That's
Yeah,
I
it's in
experienced the
everything.
same when I was in the paranormal field. I see it a lot, but it just apes and echoes what I've seen in the anime convention scene and the indie art in the indie comic scene when I was part of it. It's
Hmm.
just more of that. It's just the names and faces have changed, but they're all the same people, and you just gotta keep going forward with that. And it's the way of the world, because we're human beings at the end of it.
Hmm. Yeah, 100%, man. And unfortunately, humans, a lot of them are not good. A lot of
Yeah.
them are. A lot of them are. But
Yeah.
it's difficult. But yeah, man.
You want to like wrap the end of it on something positive. It's
Yeah, let's get back to positive. But
Yeah.
I do want to,
Yeah,
I
because
do
I'm
want to
sure you
get
got,
back to your. Sorry,
yeah.
I do want to get back to some of the sleep paralysis questions I've got for you because
Yeah,
I
go
find it
ahead.
very interesting, man. Um, so you've not, so other than them two standout times where these entities were coming in, your sleep paralysis was very different. Your other experiences of sleep paralysis.
Mhm.
It was more. Do you think there's different types? So there is like a science to this, that a natural thing that does happen to us where we can't move, where we get this feeling, but then there is more of a supernatural element that is very similar, but is a different thing.
Um, as far as different types, yeah, I believe that now.
Hmm.
before I thought it was just one encompassing umbrella until I realized my stuff didn't line up with the typical stuff. And from what
Yes.
I've seen of what's typical, I'm kind of glad of that. I
Yeah,
consider
man.
myself blessed that
But I don't know. Your experience
all
was
I
pretty
got,
scary. That
it
is for
was
sure.
scary, but it wasn't all that. Looking back, I can laugh at it. I can make jokes. I can make cute little drawings of it. It, I, I can look back at it with a through a wholesome lens. The other people who've had to deal with these malicious these creatures that are just rather, malicious and scary and stuff like this. I have a hard time. I can imagine it, but I because I haven't experienced it on that level, I don't know what to give them other than my empathy.
Hmm.
Because a lot of these experiences stuff, this is pretty much my toe into this paranormal world that I have to relate to people. Because when I do my art stuff, when I do the when I draw aliens and stuff like this, people are trusting me to interpret their experiences and stuff like this. So, having that relatability, I think is a good thing, because that way, there's that level of trust that's there.
Hmm.
And I really enjoy being, entrusted with that when dealing with these experiences, and learning about these experiences, because, I can't have these, as far as I know, I can't have these experiences for myself. I'm not in whatever pool that was chosen for these people. I wasn't a part of.
Hmm. Not yet. It's
Yeah,
gonna it's
no.
gonna happen at any time.
Yeah, as far as the space seed stuff and the super soldier programs and all of that underground basis stuff, I no one brought me along. So the closest that I have to experiencing that is through other people's encounters.
Yeah.
And that's where we do the artwork that I like to do, is to sort of recreate that.
Hmm.
And that, whenever I do that, then I get to step into their shoes. I get to step into their experience, because then I get to, flesh it out for myself
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
try to figure out, everything that they experience, what it was all about, as I draw it out visually, and
Hmm.
that's sort of me experiencing their stuff with them.
Yeah. Interesting, man. So in the house that you had that experience in, is that the house you're in now, or are you in a different place?
I believe I was in a different place. It's
Hmm.
when I was in the current dwelling that I am now.
Oh
I
no,
guess
so
I did get
sorry, when I said I mean the actual house that you're in. But is it in the same house?
no, it
Okay.
was someplace else. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I moved to like another place, I did experience for like 6 months, I guess, a temporary haunting,
Mm.
where I would see a out of the corner of my eye. I guess it was new place jitters, where I would see the like what looked like a little girl, but her hair was flowing upward, like she was underwater, or like there were snakes or whatever. It was clearly flowing hair. It was flowing upward, and I would see her walking down the hallway, and I would always catch, the out of the corner of my eye, the entity doing that. And
Whoa.
I felt this clear presence in the apartment, that I wasn't alone for like about 6 months. And then it got bored and walked off. I guess it
Wow.
finally made its way down the hall out the door, and it finally left.
Is that
But
the place you're in now?
yeah, that's where I'm at
Interesting.
now. I felt it coming down the hall, and then it just, eventually left and sauntered itself out of here.
Do you
And
think going
and
like when you was a kid, do you think that's because you didn't give it the energy that it wanted? That's why it left? Do you think if you had really, I don't know, was you fearful? Because I think that's a big part of it as well. Did this?
no, I felt presence. I felt presenteeism, where I felt like there was a presence here.
Hmm.
I felt heaviness in the air. And then once it left, after I made too many Facebook posts about it, it decided to finally, okay, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I did feel a shift in the air pressure, the weight of the air around me, and you feel this free feeling like, oh, something, whatever it is gone. I mean, could it have been an attachment? Could it have been something that was here when the prior tenant was? Could it have been, or could it have been something transitioning, like a transient entity that was already on its way someplace else, and my dwelling just happened to be in the way. I don't know. It seems like, I guess it seems like I get caught in the way of a lot of things going someplace else, and it's just, I'm just in the way spiritually of so
No.
many other creatures.
But you used to see this entity.
Yeah, when I would see it, it was only out of the corner of my eye, and then when I would focus on it, it would disappear.
Hmm. Which is
And it was
something you
just
hear a
like,
lot.
yeah, it was just like a flash at a time.
Was it full
Yeah.
bodied or was it like see through or shadowy?
It was, I can only best describe it as a black outline, whereas that sort of, darker than dark type of thing that we
Yes.
usually get.
Hmm.
And it was like, even when I had like a low light settings, I would still be able to see it going through the hallway. And it had this specific path. It was like directly down the hallway. I would never see it in other rooms. I would never see it when I was like watching television. It never left, it never went anywhere else except directly down the hallway. That was just the beginning and end of it.
Did it freak you out though? Did it scare you?
Not really. Not really. I guess I sort of felt like a bit, unsettled and feeling something spiritually different. But other than that, I didn't pick up any like negative or malice from it.
Hmm.
It wasn't, as far as I could tell, it wasn't here to scare me.
Yeah. Was there
It's
other
just,
was
yeah,
there
go
other
ahead.
acti was there other activity going on as well? Was you hearing noises, voices, and things like that? Was there that sort of thing happening as well? Things going missing? Three.
Well, I guess every now and then I would always have something missing, and then it shows up like the first place that I looked that it wasn't,
Yeah.
that it was supposed to be. And of course that, that's probably the work of the fairies, I guess I like to say. So I experience that like a lot here and there. But that's just something that's ongoing for my life that I really don't document. As far as what was the other half of your question?
So just that the other sort of um, paranormal activity that we experience in haunted places, like typical hearing
Uh,
bangs, noises, hearing voices, was things like that happening as well?
I guess I would say I would like hear like I would hear, I think I would hear that phenomena where it sounds like there's a party going on in the other room and it's muffled. I
Hmm.
would get that every once in a while. And I don't know what exactly that they're calling that. I'm sure that there's a rational explanation for it that I'd be happy to glom onto. But
Hmm.
it sounds like, there's like white noise and our brain is interpreting it as voices. And I would hear that every once in a while. I haven't heard it recently, but it would happen every now and then. But
Interesting.
that I would have. And I don't know if that was attached to the entity, the hallway entity or not. I don't know. But
Interesting, mate.
lately it's been pretty humdrum here.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. Because I go through spells in the house that I'm in now where a lot of things seem to happen. The wife and kids experience stuff, I don't like it. As much as I love the paranormal and I've had a lot of experiences, I could not experience anything again. And I've had enough. Like I've seen enough to know that there's more in this world,
Yeah.
100%. But I do still keep having things like a couple of weeks ago there was a tapping in this room on my desk, and it was just tap 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 tap, and I was like, "What the heck is that?" I'm trying to work out what it is. I'm looking round. I'm thinking something's fallen and it's bouncing. That's my only. But I'm thinking, what could that be?
Yeah.
You know? And then it just stopped, and I was like, Man, I mean, what is that? No, not what.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was,
I get those. I interpret those things. I call them. I know that in the paranormal we have a trickster element
hmm
that we like to blame everything on it for those mild annoyances. And in the trickster in my podcast, in my world, the trickster elements are Yif Kings and Burger Goblins. That's what I call them, little Burger Goblins and Yif Kings. And
yeah.
the Yif Kings are these little white, fluffy Arctic foxes that, engage in
Yes.
mischief.
Is that
One of
that's the
those. Yeah.
logo of your podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the logo of my
Yes.
podcast
That's awesome, man.
is as I call it, is the Yif King. And then the the Burger Goblins, we whatever the good folk, the Fey folk,
Yeah.
the the small people.
The putt
I just
podges, the
I
fairies,
just I just
gnomes.
round them all up, and you're all Burger Goblins now.
That makes
That's
it a lot easier. Give them one name. Because what I
yeah.
find interesting with those sort of entities, like the gnomes and things like that, is that they're all very similar and they're all around the world. They're all described the same, pretty much the trickster elements.
Mhm.
They look pretty similar. They're described very similarly. And we like I don't know how connected we were thousands of years ago, but these stories have just been passed down and they're all around the world. And I find that so interesting, man, that these things
Yeah.
are everywhere. They're in every folklore, like Bigfoot as well, like they're Dogman. They've been there in every culture for years. And I find that so interesting.
Yeah.
There's got to be something
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. I know. It's I do think there is something to it.
hmm
And I feel that it's
But we froze.
how far it
Oh,
reaches
we
and
froze for a second there. Sorry, man. We just
yeah.
froze for a second. You just
Oh
repeat
yeah.
that last bit. Sorry, man.
Yeah, sure. I think I think there's always been something here that we've dealt with, you know, and it's been a part of us like since the beginning of time. And I don't know if it's the same thing as all the aliens and greater demons and ghosts that we deal with, but I feel that there's a lower caste system of small things that just give us the minor annoyances and all of that. And I don't know that we're going to solve what exactly they are, but we're able at this point to recognize them and give them a name and give them a culture
hmm
and recognize them as a people. And I think that's as far as we can get and just, try to live with it for right now. But as far as I don't think that we're gonna, figure it out ultimately.
Yeah.
But it does add value to our lives. So
hmm Bit of
I
magic.
think it's yeah, just magical and romanticism and stuff like this. And I'm all for it.
Yeah. 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 I don't know if we're ever going to get the answers, especially in this world anyway. I don't know. But it's fun trying to work it out and hearing people's experiences and opinions. I like hearing different
Mhm.
opinions and yeah, man. Going back to that house where you had the sleep paralysis experience and you saw the two dudes in your room. Was you getting any other paranormal activity in that house at that time or ever?
Mhm. Other than just the general low end stuff, like I described, like with the Burger Goblins and stuff like
hmm
that. Other than that, there was no high end notable event that I would say happened.
Okay.
It's just sort of like a one and done.
Yeah.
I
Interesting.
mean,
Which makes it even more weird, really. To
mhm.
me, it's interesting, man. I'm going to call this episode Burger Goblin. I think that's going to be the name of this episode.
Yeah,
Have
I've
you,
I've got a couple Burger Goblin images that I can give you for the
yeah,
episode
oh
art. I'll,
man,
I'll give
that
you.
would be amazing. Thank you, sir. Have you had any other paranormal experiences to share? Anything, any strange lights in the
Um,
sky?
See, I,
Any,
th- I think I saw a UFO. I have
oh, can we
I
get
have
into
an
that?
issue where one of my family members saw a shadow cat in the wild in the city. And then I'm
Oh
sure I
man.
got several more, and I I think it would probably be best that I come back for an episode of
Okay,
that and we
that would
discuss
be
that.
awesome. Awesome, man. Let's do it. Awesome, brother. Chris, thank you so much, man. I'd love to have you back to talk about that because
Yeah.
I want to know now. I'm going to find it hard not to talk about it now. But you're a legend, man. Your artwork is amazing. Your podcast is awesome. Can you tell the listeners where they can find you?
You can find me mostly on Instagram and Twitter at Conspire A Theory, all one word. Just type out Conspire A Theory. And there I'm mostly active on Instagram. I'm constantly posting my art. I'm constantly posting screenshots from video games I'm playing, fun stuff like that. I try to keep my Instagram very lighthearted and fun and, just whatever is going on engaging. I have stuff like Facebook and stuff like this, but on Facebook, I'm very selective about who I add and all that stuff. But it's more of a, if you're on Facebook and stuff, there is a way to reach to me there, but I would prefer that people go through the outlet of Instagram and try there first.
Mhm.
That's pretty much where I'm at. And if I'm going to give Tommy some segments of art to show up of the various topics that we talked about. So
Awesome.
when this episode drops, Tommy will then release the corresponding clips to it that would then be found on his social media releases.
Awesome, man. Awesome. It's been awesome talking to you, brother. I will share your links in the show description so people can find you easily.
Mhm.
We've got to talk again soon because I've got to hear those other encounters that you've had. And thank you so much, man. You're a legend. Your work is awesome. And yeah, look forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We always have a good time when we sit down and talk.
Yeah, man.
I know we've done like panel work together on other people's shows with Kevin and Shane and this stuff. And we're sort of like, when we get together, we're like a mini dream team.
Yeah,
But
for
it's
sure, man.
nice. It's nice when you and me get to just sit down and we just get to shoot the shit every now and then. And
Yeah, that's
it's
what I
very fun.
like.
I really respect you, and I thank you
Ah,
for letting me on your show. This is
ah,
a fantastic thing, and I think you're doing a fantastic job with your show.
thank you, man. Thank you, brother. That means a lot. Thank you very much. Well, let's do it again soon. I look forward to it. Guys, if you've enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it where you can. That's a great way to support us. Give us both 5 stars. Head over to both our podcasts. Give us 5 stars. That is a great way to help us. It gets us out there to more people that enjoy the freaky conversations. And we're going to be back very soon for more. Hope you enjoyed it, guys. We'll see you soon. Keep it freaky. Bye for now. Thank you very much, sir.